There is a part of me that undergoes a great hardship about Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Black History Month. They all have unspoken expectations. Many people, I have observed, defer and or resign to deliberate, coordinated movement or ritualistic dramatic composition. Why? It can afford comfort. This is the answer. To play along, to get along. Many are terrified at interrupting their usual way of going about business. So, why resist separation from being programmed and predictable? Imagine that. Seldom do we realize the downside to this self-induced trauma. Chiefly, it is easy to be manipulated when in this position. So, with Christmas, gift giving is expected. Thanksgiving may magnetize duplicitous behaviors for the sake of tolerance. Black History Month delivers a well-worn list of topics. Now, how you navigate various narratives may generate designation of blackness. This is about as stupid as Christians determining how saintly one is by taking total of their offerings. Oh, let's include this commentary in my Get Real series. Here, my potential to arouse one to impatience or anger is significantly inflated. Here, I do not self-censor. You are encouraged to express your dissent, hopefully in a respectful manner. I am not here to shield your emotions from words you may not like or ideas that may frighten you. Juvenile emotional tantrums and inflammatory nonsense will be readily rejected. This edition will not be edited and not scripted. Obviously, most things, if not everything, has its range of possibilities. So, we will be able to form a critical opinion of, or approximate, a calculation of worth. Some subjective and objective assemblage will take shape. It may be that when looking at racial segregation for blacks, that our reasoning takes us to a positive outcome, like creating a pool of opportunities. By definition of a black institution, it would require employment opportunities to be mostly filled, if not completely, by blacks. Likewise, an example of the other extreme may be that creating mass inequities made life better. We did more for ourselves due to necessity. Indeed, historical recollection shows this did occur. Yet I have never heard one ask, why does one need external motivation for betterment as it pertains specifically to the black condition? Also, the mere act of tending to supply and demand does not guarantee an outcome which is positive, though often assumed. This said, quality of production is yet another concern. Why do I bring this up? Well, I get so frustrated at suppositions being presented as conformity to actuality. Also, why the popular need for justification of segregational yearnings? I reckon it is easy to fail in our comprehension of how one's belief has helped to construct that reality, because our belief is eventually validated and therefore assumed it has been true since the outset. But is integration a burning house? Surely a reasonable argument can be made to support a reply of affirmation. But is this just an excuse for social division? Why is it assumed that healthy values are an in-group fact, occurrence, or circumstance? A lot of erroneous things can be proved by creating a logical argument to support them. Remember, when we go about proving something, we are establishing beyond doubt. Let's not conflate that with verification. A system that provides separate facilities comes with a reason. In the case of blacks, One reason is belief in the sophism of us being subhuman, therefore inferior to whites. Today, there is a push by sour racial ideologues and some misguided younger black people for segregation, as if philosophy and rule of law does not accompany it. The memory of those who preceded me made it clear. It was rare that separate and equal were traveling buddies, nor am I saying we are equal today. You can say what you will, but you can't change truth. All Americans live in a system that vastly marginalizes most of us. Yet, this is not to say that this is equally done. A hierarchy can be proven to exist as it relates to racial and ethnic taxonomic groups. It is patently false. Things have not improved. Some may say we are simply slaves without chains, and in many ways we are, but that I will save for a later conversation. This still does not go against what I have stated. Yes, things have improved, but I would offer in a superficial way, and I would also offer that this is a global deceit, that most men and women on this planet have been hoodwinked to believe that reality is as they believe it to be. Part of this superficial way of improvement is due to the complexities of mankind, not a racial subset. When we minimalize the picture of actuality, we generate a deceit, a manipulation. We should know by now that one cannot legislate morality. In America, blacks were given enough to quiet us down, not to make a significant difference in our existence. This is not to say that I think things are regressing. I know that they are regressing for all of us, for much different reasons than I want to get into at this current time. Also, no one is stopping one from obtaining a visa, purchasing an airline ticket, and flying elsewhere, assuming the desired country would allow you to migrate there. However, I assert that most of the time, racial segregation is pushed by blacks due to being an intellectual midget. No one is forcing another to consort during their private lives. Integration is merely incorporating a group into a community. The point is to absorb a cultural group into harmonious reality, or at least employing racial tolerance. This is something that this country has failed miserably at. I am not speaking of cultural destruction or denying one a sense of self. However, what is morbidly funny is that many times people of this mindset do not fight against the concept of global singularity. Let's face the fact, due to man's idiocy, fear, greed, and suspicion, rightfully so, segregation truly has never left this country. It has never escaped the minds of men. It simply has went underground. But you know us Americans, we love our pretense. Desegregation encouraged blacks to live differently. But this did not have to be an excuse to be foolish. No one made us, as a collective, cease to build and support one another. We can decide to work together in peace and employ fellow blacks. No one twisted the collective hands of blacks to cease to try to improve their condition. Of course, white businessmen were going to seek out your dollar and do all they can to lure you into their markets. This did not have to prevent blacks from supporting black businesses while also venturing out. Here, my brothers and sisters, enemies, and anyone else who cares to listen, is the inconvenient truth. Many within our ranks feel inferior or suffer from the fear of missing the boat. Hope is lost for those. Some think internally they do not have the power to significantly alter their own circumstances. Then there are those who buy into the slave mentality of believing white people are superior by virtue of their genetics, the attention they receive from other ethnicities, and access to resources. We fail because as we see one struggle, we take delight in their pain and we do not offer assistance. Or we go overboard, ignoring valid criticism, while we assist those who truly do not need assistance. Though we know this, we continue to enable and support their poor choices. Others think that God is the answer and that they can afford to perpetually rest on their backside. What about God helping those that help themselves? Religion, the marvelous tool of the slave masters, former and present, has conditioned many to quietly and without objection accept harmful circumstances for themselves as the natural order of things. Some of us are so far gone, we have successfully been indoctrinated to accept views and beliefs about ourselves from those that wish to harm us. Yet, we try to emulate their pursuit for materialism via the American way. But we do not acquaint ourselves with those strategies and tactics that have brought them into the limelight. We even go so far to sermonize, threaten with excommunication, or shame others to accept beliefs that do nothing, no matter who they originated from. These beliefs do nothing but lure us to destruction on the rocks of life. Pathetic. These are the reasons why many of us fail, why we decide to stay down if we do not succeed, instead of getting up and trying again, and again, and again, until we take our last breath. That is the fight you are not excused from if you are true to what you want to become, which I assume is something better than what you are currently. Fact is, and I know I'm going to sound like a conservative, but many who are on this racial separatist bandwagon will never change their reality. Their scope is much too small. Neither do a considerable amount of them comprehend temperance as it applies to public relations, and some still do not realize the benefit to long-term business planning, infrastructure, and gumption. Desegregated blacks were foolish enough to watch and encourage the deterioration around them. If we wanted to stretch out as a collective, we could have gathered intelligence, investigated what the reality of our situation was previous to this shift in society. Then we could have made better decisions as to how we wanted to spend our money, how we wanted to invest our time. We did not have to invest in businesses or make the wallets of those who oppressed us fatter than what it was. Now, because we are completely saturated with corporate America around the globe in many ways, unless you completely take yourself off the grid, you will not be able to escape that reality. Yes, there were whites that conceded to segregation not because of bigotry or racism, but greed and fear. Yet spotlighting this and questioning behavior will yield articulated rude expression, infamy, and or emotionalism that prevents objective consideration. Fact is, some are emotionally inept and juvenile. They do not see the vulnerabilities of sentient beings. They do not use their emotions to fuel their intellect. They refuse to grow. There will always be people who are grossly offensive to decency. There will always be people who are willing to enslave you because you do not know who you are. You do not have control of who you are, and you do not possess a vision to grow. So, indeed, we have local economies. But technology, trade agreements, and the need for speed changed everything. Banking industry and more corporations than you may care to admit have expanded to the point where they don't really have any national loyalty. I can't think of any bank in today's world that would not be inclined to fall in line with the established system because they know they will be destroyed if they do not. I have said this in many ways and I will say it again. Hopefully this time it will register. The system is constructed to work against you, not just because you are black, but for many other reasons, in addition to our history. It will put man after man in front of you. This is why unity, planning, and consistency is important. Unfortunately, blacks can't seem to work together, or Americans can't seem to work together. Nor does it appear, of course, that the world can work together, when in actuality it is not a black thing. It is not an American thing. It is a global tyranny. But I fear that many of you will not see this until it is much too late. Though I think we should work towards frugality in expenditures and resources, we also must become creators of things not related to sports or entertainment. Banks, technology, military force, and the rule of law, as well as certain occult practices, is truly the muscle which allows the elite to rule. Profits continue to be based on growing markets, which threatens the environment, on exploitation of the less developed regions, on growing debt, which in part is stealing resources needed by future generations. Banksters are thugs and master illusionists. They and their lawyers drain us of our life resources. The idea of economy amounts to a system of exploitation for all. Long ago, all of humanity went into a burning house based on consolidation, force, and negation to form singularity. Of course, I believe that we should strive, meaning black people, should strive to be independent. But we will not get out of this mess without working with others. You see, regardless of what you think, that doesn't matter. What matters is fact. There is only equality of inequality for all. This is not the summation of our merit or failure. It goes beyond that. This does not absolve you, however, of personal responsibility. There are so many things in today's world which we are bombarded with daily. They are small contributions to our reality that add up. We have varying degrees of guaranteed dispossession that a bank steals or already stolen on conception, of course. And we haven't even touched on those things that are unseen that affect us. The plot thickens. Now, I am not stating that blacks in America should not align themselves with Africa, so do not throw a straw man at me, because I'm just going to dismiss your attempts of derailing the conversation. We must realize that we cannot allow ourselves to believe that nation identity exists. Nation identity today truly is an effective facade. When you look deeply, you will see that truly it does not exist. Even a superficial investigation will show these groups hold no national allegiance, and their only interest in any country, and we're speaking about corporations, is the ability to make a profit. So unless you reboot the system, no, really you need to change the paradigm from the bottom up. Unless you do that, the likelihood of you thriving in a segregated or even a racial nationalistic system is merely a pipe dream. We have to get beyond that. We have to first establish what a sovereign is, what true sovereignty brings us, how it can affect us. And when we achieve that, then we can move forward. and construct realities that will truly be beneficial to all of us. But sovereignty is necessary for any nation or group to be successful. Individual sovereignty. Let's make sure that the hammer, which is me, hits the nail squarely. There's a lot of talk in various circles in regards to establishing an economic reality which is beneficial to blacks. Well, how can an economy be established when economic equality in today's purported economy is nothing but a lie? So how can we assume that we can change a monster that we do not understand? The economy of today, it allows one to take unfair gain at the expense of another only to lose that unfair gain. Sure, we can pretend. Let's do so. Let's pretend an economy for the people exists when U.S. banks have formulated a highly detailed set of policies for transferring illicit funds to the U.S., investing those funds in lawful businesses or U.S. government bonds and legitimizing them. The plight of the poor and disenfranchised will never be a true concern for America. How can it be when the state and the banks have neither the interest nor the will to put an end to the practices that provide high profits and fortify an otherwise fragile empire? Even if a real economy existed, how could one be hopeful knowing that American government does not have cash flow left over to pay the interest on existing debt? So, we borrow to pay the interest, which means the existing debt is compounding. Right now, survival is key. The government has become very creative in concealing crafty measures to postpone the inevitable. Of course, the reality is that with each implementation of their ingenuity, the more extreme the final debacle will be. The so-called economy has ceased to create jobs in export industries and in industries that compete with imports. U.S. job growth has been confined to domestic services, principally to food services and drinking places, private education, and health services. Speaking here of ambulatory health care and hospital orderlies, and construction, which now appears to be very troubled. We have to think in a bigger way. Instead of making excuses and investing in non-productive uses of anger, would it not be sensible to fight the system by truly understanding it first? How about working to prevent the power brokers' bag of tricks like urban renewal, public housing, restrictive covenants, and redlining? Do you think growing black populations within the United States, ones that seek out better housing opportunities, could be seen as anything other than a menacing wave when those bag of tricks that I referred to are used? Talk about an ill-fated arrangement. And that is on a much smaller level than the global deceit that we are all encompassed in. There are so many ways for the system, which hates whites also, just to a lesser degree, keeps you distracted. Sad really how so many of you waste your time with fear and hate instead of thinking and working to build something better. Do you think that separating from the white man is going to shield you from free trade agreements? Do you think separating from the white man is going to protect you from drone strikes? Do you think that separating from the white man will allow you to escape environments poisoned by the diabolic constructs of our neo-feudal lords, and that we all are suffering due to that? Do you think that running away from the white man will release the shackles of your fascist Christ? Do you think if you run from the white man that you will escape the unleashed corrosive fallout, literal and otherwise, of man-made nuclear crisis? Do you think running away from the white man will get you far away from climate engineering programs? If you run hard and far away from the white man, do you think it will free you from corporation charters, interest, or monopolizing of power? Just saying. Nope, nope, nope. That is just a band-aid. That is just a band-aid. Because at this stage of the game, we might as well face it. The burning house is the globe, not America. We need to put away certain mythologies, because all they do is make us feel good. It doesn't attack the reality. I am looking forward to your comments. If I am wrong, I want you to show me. I want to grow. And the only way that I can do that is by expanding my mind. I hope that you do the same. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your time.